Hi, my name is Karen Holmes. I'm the founder and director of the World Peace Organization for the One World Government. Today I want to go into greater depth on the World Peace marketing strategy. I've been working on this, getting the catalogs set up and such so that I can create classes, actual classes, taking this to the next level. I have blogs set up for many of the events so that people can actually go through. This is in preparation for the exit strategy for Iraq proposal, the government proposal. I've become aware that the letter to the Supreme Court that he sent in, there's a good possibility that the government is ready to address that now. There's been a lot of resistance to that letter on the government side, you could say, because they don't really know how to address the idea of abuse of power. It's a tyranny, abuse of power idea. What do you do about Donald Trump and the fact that he is planning, according to what the three generals said, wage civil war in over the 2024, and on January 6th, he's going to have a press conference. So I wanted to address that right now and to figure out how we can solve this problem. All right, so the existing structure oftentimes is based on plans that didn't address the root cause of the problem, so they make the problem worse. People come up with plans, but if it doesn't address the root cause of the problem, it makes it worse. So it comes along for a period of time. It seems like it'll work, and then it goes down. What we want is solutions to our problems so they never come back. Wouldn't it be great if you had, let's say, a leaky faucet and you didn't have to worry about it ever again? Somebody came up with a solution that says actually never again. Okay, well, this is what we want, is solutions to the problems and based on the root cause of the problem. So that's where we come in, because we're connected. My organization is connected to the source, you could say, Lady Gaia, who basically has a broad enough perspective that, and I am that I am, they have a broad enough perspective that we can solve the problems. In fact, as I said in a previous video, I have root cause cards that have solutions to over 20 problems, major problems that our government and the entire world is facing right now. My cat has decided to come in and find out what's going on. So today I wanted to address this idea of the fourth row people and get it from a different perspective. When you're in a fight with somebody, you know, they're talking about this group of people. They have the guns. They're the people who have the guns. You have Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and they're wearing guns, carrying guns into Congress, and they believe they have the constitutional right to do that because the right to bear arms. Okay, the Constitution gives us the right to bear arms. Well, that's where my letter comes in. It starts to unravel that idea, the right to bear arms. But the same problems occur on every level. So if the right to bear arms is a constitutional thing, that doesn't necessarily apply on the international level. So we're looking at international law, we're looking at constitutional law and federal law, the letter to the Supreme Court, and the misunderstanding that allows somebody to constitutionally justify power games that are oppressive to the people. I don't know about you, but if I don't have a gun and somebody else does, it's kind of scary sometimes. So we're looking at this fourth row people, because they're the people who they're the ones who start rebellions. Okay, here, you can sit up right here. Okay, what's interesting about this fourth row people, though, is they're the Lightbearers. According to this row, they're the Lightbearers, and they function as watchdogs of the organization. When you look at the fine print, it's watchdogs. They're the watchdogs. So how does that apply? The Lightbearers, they're the Lightbearers? How is it that the people who seem so totally clueless about what's going on in government, and they believe they can do all these things, then they're 180 degrees from where they think they are, but they're the light bearers, and that's because they're the light bearers to their own cultures, to their own religions. So when you stop and think of it, and I know this may be obvious, but when you stop and think of it, how can we take this idea forward if those people are influential about their own people? Let's say, isn't it Lauren Boebert who has her own bar, and it's a very popular bar, and basically she's very vocal on Second Amendment rights. Well, if somebody in the Republican Party wants to stand up and defend Second Amendment rights, why would you not bring in somebody who can stand up on Second Amendment rights? But that person isn't necessarily somebody who knows how to solve problems, or who basically understands how government functions and what the Constitution says. If they don't read the Constitution, they take the oath. It's kind of like getting married and you're not planning on staying married to that person anyway. We'll get a divorce when we decide not to be together anymore. So it's the same idea. They're the light bearers to their own culture, but they're 180 degrees from where they think they are. They're holding on to what can't help them, and they're pushing away what can. They are the people who start rebellions because they don't understand what they are. They're influencers on, like, the internet influencers, but they're basically totally clueless about fashion, so to speak. They're going to be the people who influence people. They're important people, but they don't know what to say. So getting back to the idea of my organization, I have to understand all the principles associated with. That's why I'm writing my PhD thesis, is because I have been teaching a long time, but it isn't necessarily, I'm learning right along with everybody else. My organization is working to introduce a plan for world peace. I started a prayer circle in the early 1990s, and we got a lot of information at the prayer circle. Then after the prayer circle ended, what we did was we all picked project ideas, and then we were supposed to go work and create them. Nobody knew how to do that. So we were right back where we started. We had these great ideas, but didn't know how to bring them about. So then, at that point in time, I started to channel books. It's kind of like, God, can you help us again? Okay, then I started to channel books on the planning process and how to create the life you want. The existing structure, we had gone along with the idea that the existing structure of spiritual books, our group read many, collectively we probably read thousands of spiritual books. We were educated on that. And the vast majority of the books on the existing structure of spiritual books are that you create your own reality. But none of them were really about how to do it. When you watch a video, for example, on how to lose weight, okay, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, you have to cut out 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 this. How do you know the truth? How do you know if vaccines are valid for helping you stop? Where do viruses come from? How did all this stuff happen? So the whole idea is to come up with a plan that benefits everyone, but you don't necessarily know what that is. You get people talking about vitamin B, vitamin A, C, cut out fat, and then put fat back into it, and you're, okay, I don't want to listen anymore. Why would I listen to you? You don't know how to solve the problem. You have to actually be solving the problem to do it, to actually convince people. So Lauren Boebert and anybody, Marjorie Taylor Greene, they function, and Donald Trump, he has his own people, but he's totally clueless when it comes to just using him as an archetype. He's totally clueless. Donald Trump is totally clueless as to how to function based on government. And so he didn't listen. He was the one who was supposed to be teaching, He was supposed to be the one leading, but he didn't know where to lead. Okay, so that's where this fourth group is. They're in trouble now. They're facing criminal charges. That's what this group, this lower row addresses. But what they are, the Lightbearers to their own culture, and they basically can become watchdogs of the organization. So what do you do if you say that? How do they become watchdogs to the organization? How about if somebody is carrying a gun, talking about gun rights, if somebody's carrying a gun, how about if you say to that person, how is that the best way to resolve disputes? Wouldn't in the United States, don't we resolve disputes in court? Do we have to wage war on somebody, on a neighbor? If you have a dispute with your next door neighbor, do you really want to make it into a feud with a gunfight? I don't think so. Because what happens if they a gun owner too, and suddenly you're shooting each other, and it's like the OK Corral again? We're back hundreds of years into the wild, wild west. Or Middle Ages, when might was right, and people won war by wearing armor and having knights on chargers and having war horses instead of horses just for going out and having fun and going on horseback riding trips. Wouldn't it be better to just have it so that everybody is functioning on a higher level than a lower level? So if there is our first government proposal is the exit strategy for Iraq, and what it does is it introduces a way to stop genocides and hopefully civil wars, and by putting disputes into a court system rather than the battlefield, and the money wasted on wars goes to the people instead. So now think about that. Do we need to wage war and spend, let's say, $1 trillion a year in a defense budget? At times it's up to $1 trillion when it's $1 billion a week to wage the Iraq War at its height. $1 billion a week they were spending on war. We don't need that. We can actually just resolve disputes in court rather than the battlefield, and then take the money. The new infrastructure bill allows our troops to come home off the battlefield. Why would they want to waste their life on the battlefield when they can be home working on infrastructure bills? If the army or the military has trained them to do that kind of thing, why? And they were thinking about using them down in the port of Los Angeles and port of I can't think of San Diego. Why not put them doing the infrastructure bills where they can make money? In fact, that's one of our projects, is to instead of having war cost money, we might be able, once we get all of our infrastructure together and that all these guys are trained, just to make sure that they're still trained and they're able to do it. We're going to have a military Olympics, and to keep everybody on their toes, and just in case. And then there's also going to be like an Army Corps of Engineers that goes out and solves problems. And our country might actually be able to make some money by hiring them out to work on big infrastructure bills, like big dams and things like that. They can participate in that. Go over and work with other soldiers who armed shoulder to shoulder, and not have to carry guns at all. Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be happy if your husband or your spouse or whatever was going off to work on something like that instead of waging war, and you could actually go with them, because there's no reason why you couldn't. Everything would be fine. Go over for a tour of duty, and it's a year in someplace exotic. Okay, so now I ask that you like, share, and subscribe this, because especially if those people who are You can send them to me if you have any of those people who are impossible to get along with because they're carrying guns. Okay? But, I'm just as an aside here, my first A in college was in rifle marksmanship. Okay? I actually took rifle marksmanship when I was in school. So I ask that you like, share, and subscribe. And if you have any of those people who are gun-toting people who want to wage war, why don't you send them to my organization and have them watch and be watchdogs of the Organization for World Peace? Because if my letter to the Supreme Court is actually now working to purify the legal system, we might be just about ready, the U.S. government might just be ready to realize that that it's international law and they're going to have to start doing this, and the contingency will be met. It comes down to the point where you have only one choice. You might be backed into the corner with two untenable options, but the only choice that you really have, that is to die or to die, backed into the corner. This is the end of life crisis. Or you can turn around and you can go backwards through the door and realize that what you wanted was behind you all the time. And that is that people have been telling you that what you wanted was behind you rather than in front of you. Okay. So we have to turn people around, and by doing it very slowly through this world peace marketing strategy, and have them be watchdogs of the organization, we can start solving this problem. We can prevent the civil war. We'll have a different kind of revolution, and that is we'll be paralleling the American Revolution, which started out with the people like John Adams and his how he defended the British soldiers after the Boston Massacre. Okay, so I ask you to like, share, and subscribe, but most of all share, because this information is important. Especially share this over the holiday season. Share it with your gun-toting fourth-row people who function for their own interests and they don't have a clue. Okay, so like, share, and subscribe. And the next thing we'll talk about is the season is going to be creativity, and Christmas is just a couple of days away now, and we'll focus on that. So thank you. Thank you for stopping by.